What's up, Domino community? I'm here with Vasilia from Domino, and today we're going to be having a conversation about how World Domino Collective was put together, including the design, the master plan, and how all of this just comes together to create, like over 800,000 dominoes, right?
Yeah, a monumental task, because the bigger you get with the same hole you have, the more complicated it's going to be to fit all your projects in your area of space.
What is this event for those who aren't familiar, and why is this in particular this year so special?
So this is the 13th year of the DDT or WDC, the World Domino Collective event, and because we're in the same hall since 2019, where we began with 350,000 dominoes. This year in 2023, from last year from the 750,000 dominoes, we're going to add more dominoes and we're going to place 800,000 in the same hall. Which means you have to place more dominoes in the same amount of area without cutting yourself with the filming space. So we first know the area of the hall, which we are in since 2019, and then it's depending on the theme we have. For example, this year we had 4 sub-themes. We dedicate each area with the amount of project we came up with the brainstorm. And for example, we have the gardens in the Middle Ages section, and we set roughly 25,000 dominoes in 7 by 3 meters. That's the area you're going to have to work with. Then the designer knows what to do with it, and if he or she really wants to expand that area and have maybe more dominoes, then it can be argued with the design team, and depending on that, each area gets filled in with the corresponding project design.
So tell me about how the theme of this project came to be, and how you go from taking a story and making that into a project, and then actually making the design and the plan. So
this year's theme was thought about in May of 2022 with the organization to have we're going to go with something with time travel, and we will have a brainstorm during the 2022 event. After that, we have a detailed brainstorm where we actually think of the story we came up with, and we said, okay, we're gonna have 3 time periods with 3 characters and have a present day for the laboratory experiment. And that's why we have chosen for the 4 timelines, so we can divide the whole in 4 sections. So in general, we have a laboratory where time travel is going to be experimented for the first time, and we have 3 participants, which all of them will have a specific time period. The prehistoric, Middle Ages, and a future section. And what is interesting about this year's theme is that we won't cover each sub-theme once, but at least twice. That makes it even more complicated, but in general that means we begin with the project in the present, we go to the first character in the prehistoric section, but only half of the projects will topple, because then we take a jump and look into the second character in the medieval section. That also will topple for the half. The same goes for the future. Then we have a update version of the present where the experiment has gone wrong. We have an interview and it says there's chaos around here. We then go back to the same sub-theme we have seen before. All the other projects will fall. That means for all the other sections, and we end in the present where all characters return. So this is a really unique concept of going through your sub-themes at least twice, which has never been done before.
That's really cool though, because then you'll see the setup going all around the floor and then coming back and crossing through.
Exactly, and I'm really curious how the audience is gonna think about it, because you might be thinking hey, but some project didn't fall. Why are we going to the next section? But after a few minutes they will understand.
Yeah, okay.
But even for us, this is something really new, and that is why we have chosen this theme, because we were really excited about this unique concept of having these sub-themes divided in not just their time periods, but having a section that falls first and a section that falls last.
Yeah, I really like that. And how are you getting the lines to go from one section to the next? Is there bridges, or what is the method of going? Because I'm sure with a project this large, it can get pretty complicated in where the line system is.
Yeah, so normally we have a dedicated sub-theme which has its own time block, which I told you about. It's the heart, and it connects all the projects. That is now being split in 2. So you have a time block for half the projects in that sub-theme. That is why we have 2 time blocks. So you have a first time block, then it goes around our dedicated film space towards the next area. But because we need to make a general filming space where we can use our cameras, tripods, and etc., we have a crossover technique from the future to the present section, which means we have like two big marbles rolling over the floor instead of having a domino line.
That's smart.
So that's why we can actually walk through it when it's not active. It's a technique that Domino Day used before, and we thought it was time to use this technique because it actually leaves your floor, and you only have to make sure that you're not in the way of that ball, because otherwise your fall down just stops.
Yeah, because I remember last year we had a couple of lines in the walking path that we had to walk over to film or like reach safety gaps, and that was a little risky.
Exactly.
But clearing that floor so you can just have a marble rolling through it is really smart.
Yeah. Exactly, it's precisely for that reason. So our film space is without dominoes.
I like it. Every year it gets a little bit better.
Yeah, it still does. It's, you know what the amazing thing is? Every year we're like, dude, we have grown so much in the last 2 or 3 years. We're almost like expecting the next year can just be better because we're already at the top of our game. But each year we're actually surprised ourselves, like, how did we came up with this now? We are like so much better than last year. It's amazing to us ourselves.
Yeah, it's incredible progress, and like, especially when you first started doing these events, like, can you even imagine like you'd get to this point where you're setting up 850,000 dominoes? Yeah,
the first year was 15,000 dominoes, and like the third year, 2013, with movies, that was my first master plan. Boy, that was a whole lot different than this now, because we have learned things along the way.
Yeah. What are some things that you've improved from year to year?
For example, having the timings right with your lines, because that was something I just didn't bother. I had like just a time block and I guesstimated how long a project will topple. And that even occurred like having a line that is connected from the timeline block but at the wrong section, and that actually happened in 2017 where we had like 2 projects falling at the same time, and that's just it's so unfortunate. It's on camera, but it's not how you wanted it.
Right.
So we have learned from those kind of mistakes, and be able to compact your projects, have them close together, for both leaving them cramped in their own space so they're completely sealed off and don't make a danger for the other sub-themes, as well as using your area with the more dominoes you're gonna add each year to use your area better.
So what's your process when you have the story and then you're trying to figure out what to make in dominoes? Like, how do you decide if it's a field versus a wall or another type of structure?
So when we're having the detailed brainstorm, we have came up with a story and we said, okay, we're going to have some kind of laboratory, the time travel experiment, and the 3 characters going to the 3 different time periods. And we always say, if we have walls or some kind of structures, those are going against the wall of the hall. And that you can see, like the prehistoric section will have 2 double walls close together against the wall. Then we, especially when we're talking about characters, which means you're gonna have to show a face or show a person. That means most of the time fields, because in fields you can add more details than a wall. And we actually try to think in combination projects rather than projects itself. So that's why you sometimes see that we have a field along next to a wall, have a fall wall in between walls, or have a cross wall that is surrounded by another wall. Just adding more than just having a field or just having a wall to make it like a scenery of a project. So you have like the atmosphere of that area, or the time period in this case, fully fleshed out in dominoes. And
like
we try
the gardens, for example, right? Because that looks like one individual project, like as a whole, rather than like individual things getting connected.
Yeah. The whole section of like the story is that the second character will end up on the marketplace and will be followed by the crowd into the royal palace. That is one storyline. We have them close together that, for example, at the palace we have both a wall that is like a 3D card of separate singular walls, alongside with a royal garden that's next to it, because most of the castles and palaces have that. And that field is even divided into 4 sections to give it one extra effect of rather having one big field. And there's even a decor piece in between that. So it's those kind of little details that we put in to make a project more interesting than just having a field with a bunch of colors, which we do most of the time.
I love that. It tells like a whole story just looking at it visually.
Yeah. And we try to balance these kind of field structures, fall walls all together, so that we use enough variety, but also think ahead of the building difficulty. because that is also a thing you have to consider. If you make only double walls, which will save up space, you risk having it fallen down, because a field is better to set up. If that one falls, it's just a line or maybe 3 or 4 lines. So we balance that out with having enough fields, having enough structures, and of course the decorations, because that is also a big part of our project now.
Yeah, tell me about the decorations, because at least compared to last year, it seems like they're much bigger, they're more complex, like they're full sets.
Yes, yeah, we have actually 2 kinds of decoration. It's either very big and undetailed, because there are a lot of dominoes coming on it, or it's that much detailed that it's not meant to be with a fully set of dominoes. Like for example, the time machine, there will be no dominoes in it, but it's pivotal to our project because that will represent the whole time machine, and it will have all kinds of interactions with electrical components and a screen and some actors to provide some context of the story itself.
Yeah, I think it really adds a lot to it.
Yeah.
Like, how else would you portray that, I guess, in a project like this?
Yeah, that is something we had like an obstacle when we thought of this theme. We were like, okay, this is quite a complicated story. We need to show this during the show and during the file down as well. So we thought of having a new concept, which includes having real life actors performing real life, I wouldn't say stunts, but like movements that represent what we need in our story, like going into the time machine and even coming out at the end as the experiment has worked.
Yeah, that's super unique. Like, I don't think anyone's really done something like that before, integrating the in-person experience with the dominoes, and then on top of that, making a whole video out of it too. Yeah,
it's over the years we have like both the experience of all the things that go with dominoes and around dominoes, and we also upgrade our things. So likewise that the master plan is each year upgraded, we also wanted to upgrade our show, which is taking a huge step this year.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, and something that blows my mind every year is like all these decoration pieces are handmade.
Yeah.
Like literally cut from wood. They're like drilling it here at the event. I'm like, wow, this is a lot of work.
You know, the thing is that even more impressive to me, they are both made from home, from Wim's home and his father Peter. But the most amazing thing they've thought of is the transportation. Because how are you going to transport all these things? They're gigantic.
Yeah, that's true. How did they do that?
Well, that's the interesting part. They try to transport it as flat as possible. That's why you see all the amount of planks and sheets and bars. It looks all flat. They pre-made like the holes for the screws to make fit them together. They do that at home, take the screws out so they can be transported easily and can be easily set up here in the hall. It's like all there's a pen over each type of wood saying this has to go on this plate. Be careful, here has to be dominoes on it so it will be completely level.
Okay.
Wim has thought so much detail, which I even don't know how he does. It's really well thought ahead, and that's why they also start with decor like very early, like in October or November, as we have our event in July.
Wow. Yeah, that's the whole thing, like the logistics of it, just transporting materials, making sure things can fit. Even just the 800,000 dominoes, like how is that transported?
Yeah, that's also something, you know, we have dominoes ourselves at home. We have like 5 or 6 people of dominoes having here in the hall, but the main general use of dominoes are from ourselves, the Dutch Domino team. Those are transported on pallets, and I think we had 13 pallets, which were 8 or 9 just out of dominoes. And I'm talking about boxes of 4,000 dominoes, and of those boxes are like, I think 15 or 16 on each pallet, so that's both quite heavy.
Wow.
And they need to be transported, which we can do ourselves, so we hired a transportation truck for that.
Okay, that's pretty legit.
Yeah.
It's like industrial at this point.
It is industrial indeed.
Yeah.
It's otherwise you can't make it, because, and don't forget, we have to carry all those boxes ourselves upwards to this hall. We have, unfortunately, this hall is leveled by a stair, so we all have to take each pallet out, get the wrappings out, get each box out, and especially those 4,000 box, they are, what is it, 32 kilograms? I don't know how many that is in pound, but you will feel it.
Yeah, it's heavy.
You
can't even really lift one.
Exactly. I can do maybe 1 or 2, but then I'm tired.
Yeah.
You have to do it by 2. Give or take, you have like 100 boxes of the 4,000, then another 200 other boxes.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of lifting.
Yeah.
It's a lot of lifting. We are really sweating, especially during the summer.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad I wasn't here on the first day.
Yeah, it's a weird sight to see. It's you know, it's like if you talk about it, 800,000 dominoes, it's amazing, it's big, you cannot fathom the big amount, and when you see it in the whole, when you're the viewer during the file down, you're already amazed. Even then you will be both amazed and your jaw will drop if you know every detail about all the process, all the designing, all the preparation, all the organization, all the transport. There are so many other layers, and this is, I just talked about one layer actually, or maybe two.
There's like so many more. Okay, so you figured out like what kind of domino project you want to make for the story. Then how do you actually go about making it and putting each domino to a pixel and a color?
So for example, the final, we have decided to have a gigantic fall wall, having like at least 25,000 of dominoes at a fall wall. Alongside is a end field of 65,000 dominoes. Well, last year we had like double like that, above 100k. Still though, it's layered with a lot of colors and details. And it's the scenery we've thought up is like we would have a big party, the experiment work, we're at the laboratoria, and our three main characters are in the field. Those are like the key things I got as a designer when making this end field design. And then it was about the format, which is like very wide. It's 40 meters wide and about 2.5 meters deep, which makes for a very strange kind of portrait, which I had to think like differently as a normal design. So that's why I made a composition with layers, which I use in Photoshop. And I use like different kind of source materials. I have like 3 people's silhouettes from behind. That I used for the main characters, and I color it myself with the clothing colors we've chosen. Then I make the scenery for the laboratoria, having a floor with tile patterns, have a wall that looks like a laboratory with pipes and different kind of walls, a bit tacky, lots of blue, and then adding all kinds of details that are apparent to the theme or the story we want to tell, and have of course some lab code, because we also have the team that worked on the whole project.
So this whole thing is like custom, like every part of the field is made. It's not based off of an image or anything.
Nope. We have I always use like a reference material that's like, this is how I gonna vision this field myself with at least a background, but most of the time like 80%, if not all of it, is all custom. Wow. And we sometimes hand draw each pixel ourselves.
No way.
Yeah.
That's so much work.
For example, I have like all these lab code characters. They are all handmade pixel by pixel. I have like TV screens. I had like a source material, but I just made it myself. It was okay, maybe 2 or 3 hours of work, but then you have like another section done. There's so many intricate details. There's even some little references of the project itself, as well as other kinds of stuff, just because it was like, I have to add some detail here, but I want to do something else than having another laboratory wall or door. And yeah, that is why you have to envision your end result beforehand, but work with a clean canvas when you start.
Right. Yeah, and what's unique about these fields, it's like a whole scene. Like we're getting a snapshot of like walking into a room in the laboratory. It's not just like one item. It's like a whole thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is what we wanted to create, especially because this is the final, so we want to make a big bang, either by having lots of dominoes or lots of details. And you have to come to me for a lot of details on your field designs.
And how do you know how many dominoes you need for each field and each color?
So that I didn't know beforehand, but I had like a first version with having like 20,000 of light blue and dark blue, and then compared to our project manager, which we used to see how many dominoes we have of each color, we found out that there was more blue needed than what we actually have, and we tried to prevent having to buy another 20,000 dominoes. So that's why I redesigned some of my tile floors to purple, yellow or white to have enough of blue dominoes left for the other projects, as well as having enough of each color for my own project.
Gotcha, okay. So you use your own program for planning it, right?
I use Photoshop as my first part for converting an image into our own colors.
Okay.
Then I create an PNG image that I can convert into our Excel program. That is the kind we use, which will use the Excel, like each cell is one color, and that will correspond with the RGB colors we use for our color palette with the most of the time lamping dominoes.
Gotcha. I heard that you count every domino, is that true?
Yes, so imagine those pallets of dominoes I talked about before, and especially 800,000.
Yep.
They get transported after the event. They're transported back to close to Wim's house, and yes, some are weighted, but some are actually counted by hand, each domino one by one.
That's crazy. I can imagine I'd go crazy just like setting them up, but then having to count them again.
Yeah,
Wow.
Especially, for example, if I bring along 1000 dark red or 1030, then I know I have more than 1000. If I count them one by one and I came up with 850, then it's like, hey, I might be missing some dominoes, and we find out where those dominoes are laying, because otherwise your dominoes are going to get mixed. And when you bring your own dominoes towards a big event like this, you want to keep your own.
Yeah, it's good to separate it so you know exactly where everyone's are.
Yeah, and that unfortunately sometimes means that you have to count them all by hand. So I'm gonna have to count my 60,000 again after this event.
Oh my, wow, good luck.
Yeah, I just turned the TV on, watch some movies, and it generally takes like 4 or 5 full days.
Dang.
Yeah, it's a boring process, but
yeah. Grab some friends, have a party.
Yeah,
yeah,
that will be distracting though.
Yeah, you're right. I haven't counted mine in like 2 years. I've been procrastinating that.
No, really? But well, how do you know if you have enough dominoes for a project, if you have a field design, or you just order more?
I usually have enough. Now that I have dominoes, like I can just get dominoes.
Yeah, okay, you can.
It's a little different.
Yeah, that's.
And I don't make large things like on this scale like you, so. That's
of course true. We decided to have like, I mean, it kind of just happened. We started with 15,000 dominoes and we were like at 200,000 in 2018, which means so a 8-year progress towards 200,000. But the years after, like 5 years later, we're now at 4 times that amount, 800,000, which is
that's big
enormous.
Growth.
Yeah, it's enormous. It's insane.
Well, I'm really looking to see this all drop. It's going to be an amazing setup.
Yep, it's finally time to build them,
yep.
As it's all being laid out on paper, but now we have to place them on the floor.
Yep, one more week.
Yep, one more week to go.
Yeah, is there anything else you want to tell the viewers?
Like I said, this is just like one layer or maybe a detailed layer of one of the things we do with the preparation. So I hope this gives an insight of how much work there is behind the project, as it is not just about drawing pixels and having a fancy color. And I hope you enjoyed it, as I usually do, making these master plans, and looking forward to the end result along with you as a viewer. So looking forward to the fall down.
Yeah, me as well. Thank you so much for sharing. Like, even I'm learning so much through this process of seeing how big events get organized and planned out. Like, it's really quite incredible.
Yeah, it gives another insight into these.
Amazing. So thank you, Vasilia, for being on the podcast. This is, I guess, a podcast now. Yeah, go check out his channel, Domino, and make sure to check out the Fall Down on Dutch Domino Team. You can check it out right over here. Well, thanks again.
Thank you.
And as always, I'm Lily Hevish, and keep on building.